Mimics from Edge of Tomorrow were to go up against the White Spikes from the Tomorrow War. Oh, how I wish I could make an animation about this, but we don't have time, so we just gotta use our imaginations. I've already made several videos on the White Spikes from the Tomorrow War, and recently made a video about the Mimics from the Edge of Tomorrow. Both creatures are an invasive species of extraterrestrials. They're very hostile. Both species are eerie to look at and very intelligent. One is based on nanotechnology, and the other is what I believe to be a bioengineered weapon based on some other alien that wanted to take over Earth. Honestly, I think in both cases, these aliens are used as weaponry to get rid of humans on the planet and to shape Earth for themselves. Naturally, aliens from another planet are not going to want resistance from the most intelligent species on their planet that they're trying to take over. So, if they're smart, they're going to send in their guard dogs or watchdogs, attack dogs? Yeah, to take care of the problem. Basically what you do with insects that are coming inside of your house.
Investigators say the young man who lives in the house was trying to kill a spider with a makeshift blowtorch. They say he had a can of spray paint, and a lighter. The flames quickly spread, and he called 911.
Do not go in there. That spy, hey, he looked like a cocker spaniel.
Now, understandably, if you've seen the movie Edge of Tomorrow, you'll know by now that the Mimics have an unfair advantage. And this is your cue to go away if you've not seen the movie. But they can manipulate time, or rather move through it to suit their fancy. They're very intelligent and can recognize when they're losing a battle against the residents of the planet. And so what they do is they start all over again. They will realize they're losing, and their main hub, known as the Omega, this big ball in this sort of sea anemone thing, will reset the day over and over again, like Groundhog's Day, until they get it right and kill everyone. But for the sake of this video, since they're going up against the White Spikes, well, we'd have to take that away. Obviously, there are two versions of these creatures, the big blue ones and the little red ones. The red ones are known as the drones, and the blue colored ones are known as the alphas. The blue colored ones are way more aggressive and powerful, although it seems as though the little red ones, or red-hued ones, are a lot more agile and fast. If their time ability was not a factor, would the Mimics be able to contend with the White Spikes? Based on what we've seen in the movie Edge of Tomorrow, the Mimics look like a tangled mess of wires or cables. They can rapidly shapeshift and contort into different forms at incredible speeds. They can also spit out large explosive projectiles, or if you want to call them missiles. So even if you're in the air, they can hit you from up there as well. These creatures can climb super fast, run super fast, and even make themselves into wheels. They can dig through the ground and ambush humans. They learn to adapt based on their prey or enemies' behavior, and as they're moving and hitting to things, they seem to be very durable, with the exception of being hit by very fast-moving projectiles like bullets. The creatures do have eyes, and so if they're facing an opponent, they can see whatever it is they're facing, but if they're not facing you, you can get the drop on them. Don't know how you do that though, because as soon as you start shooting, it does take a few rounds to bring these things down. They're so fast that they move like ninjas, and most humans cannot catch up to them. Humans don't have a chance of fighting these things without using mechanized suits, and even still, they're still at the mercy of these Mimics. The Mimics will usually attack anything that moves, willing to put their lives on the line to do so. They can climb really well, and it doesn't seem as though they need to breathe. These creatures, known as Mimics, came to Earth from interstellar space utilizing asteroids, which dropped all around Europe. A few days after landing in Europe, they started the invasion against mankind. And this fight for survival has been going on for 5 years. Now, these Mimics in Edge of Tomorrow are based on the ones from the book on which this is based, but they do differ quite a bit. The Mimics from there are said to have looked like this. And to get to know more about the creature, the Mimics are heavy silicone-based artificial life forms enclosed in armor that requires a 50mm round to be perforated. They are said to look like bloated frogs. They're not quite as big as human beings, with 4 limbs and a tail, and what appears to be sand filling the interior of their bodies is actually a mass of nanites. Right now, at least based on what the book says, it's believed that the mimics have been created by another alien species to act as xenoforming devices, converting planets before their arrival so that they don't have to contend with any mess when they get there. Mimics are hive-based organisms, each group consisting of a central nexus unit and numerous antennae units, which send the signal to the nexus. And as I said before, their most extraordinary ability consists of rewinding time, which allows them to return to a previous point in time whenever they're killed, while retaining their memories of how they've been killed to enable them to avoid that fate. And as a result, this makes them unbeatable in combat. Now, even though the mimics in Edge of Tomorrow look very different, they still are just as dangerous and have a lot of the same features in terms of what they can do as their book counterparts. The white spikes, on the other hand, are aggressive, hostile species of creatures that are highly intelligent. They don't operate as a hive mind, but instead, they are able to communicate with each other to coordinate their attacks. Similar to the mimics, they learn from their mistakes. They can climb, swim, and shoot projectiles as well. However, they've adapted very well to their circumstances and have obviously been bioengineered or adapted to kill prey with precision. The white spikes have powerful jaws that can crush bone. They can jump off of high places and glide several feet. The queen of their species is much more intelligent than they are and bigger. Basically, she's their alpha. And they can shoot projectiles. I said that already. Alright, let's get into it. What would happen if these guys were to go up against the mimics from Edge of Tomorrow? Well, from what I have seen, based on the distribution of the mimics in the Edge of Tomorrow movie, I think that the white spikes outnumber them. I believe that the mimics have a very limited population simply because they don't have to reproduce. Their method of reproducing, if you want to call it that, is being able to go back through time. And so all of their troops that have died, well, they come back when they go back through time and play their game all over again. The white spikes have queens. Even though the queens are much rarer than the drones, the queens are still able to reproduce at high rates to keep up the numbers. That's why, even though the humans have continued killing white spikes for a long time, they just seem to be everywhere. The white spikes do seem to break off into smaller groups, but at the behest of their queen, can swarm in extraordinary numbers in the blink of an eye. The white spikes have armored backs, but their undersides are pretty vulnerable, and it's pretty easy to kill them, which also explains why they have such great numbers. They usually win fights through the battle of attrition, and that means that their population reproduces so much, so fast, faster than the human population can, that even though they lose many of their troops, the human population would deplete at a much faster rate than that of the white spike population. And they would do this with everything on the planet. So definitely, if the white spikes saw these things, let's say they started to invade the Earth at the same time, and the mimics did not have that time ability thing, they would start going at each other. And at first, the mimics would be able to take out several of the white spikes very fast. But the white spikes also have the ability to swarm. Now, I know I often just look at the populations as is, but let's say the mimics have as many as the white spikes. The mimics are still at a disadvantage because they cannot reproduce. They don't have their time ability in the scenario, so they can't go back through time and start over. This puts them at a huge disadvantage. They're much faster and more powerful than the white spikes, so they'd be able to kill much more of the white spikes, and they'd be able to kill them much easier too. However, the white spikes are very good at swarming their prey, and so they would be able to take down several of the mimics. However, the mimics do have much more powerful armor all over their body than the white spikes. Their tangled mess of cables can go straight through a white spike's belly, and they can move up and down areas faster than the white spikes would be able to catch them. But over long periods of time, even though the mimics are designed to be more powerful and lethal than the white spikes are, eventually, if things go the way that they're supposed to, the white spikes would eventually overthrow the mimics, being that the mimics can't reproduce. However, one thing that the mimics would still have is their intelligence, and they would try their best to get at the queen, or the queen white spikes, and they would concentrate on their efforts there. The only problem is that the queen is heavily fortified, and her drones would swarm the mimics long before they ever get close to the queen. They would have enough personnel to not only guard the queen's areas, but also to take down all the alpha white spikes that are much stronger. Over time, indubitably, the white spikes would win simply because of their numbers. Now, if we were to put a white spike up against a mimic, a one-on-one battle, the mimic would definitely win. They are just too fast moving, too adaptable, and way more durable than the white spike. The Mimic would be moving so fast that the white spike wouldn't even know where to look next. On a one-on-one battle, the Mimic totally wins. But if we're talking about armies here, based on what we know about these two aliens, it's white spikes all day long. Thanks so much for this suggestion, guys. It was freaking awesome. What do you guys think would happen if the Mimics were to meet the white spikes? And under which conditions do you think things would be different as an outcome? Surely if the Mimics had their ability to contort time or manipulate it, they would win. Unless, of course, the white spikes have the plot armor that the humans did in Edge of Tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.